welcome to another episode of Show Me Politics with Paul Berry III. I'm the People's Lobbyist, and I'm joined by 97.1 News Talk personality Tim Jones. So, hey, how you doing, Tim?
I'm great, Paul. Thanks for having me on again.
Oh, I appreciate it. And the reason why I called you up is because I wanted to see what's going on in Jeff City. And I've been traveling a little bit, honestly doing a lot of tweeting and Facebook posts from airports. But you've had your sort of eye on what's going on. And give me a little bit about the progress of the bill.
So, Missouri concluded its regular session on May 12th, just 10, 12 days ago. And shortly thereafter, the governor said, you know what, I don't think we're done yet doing the people's business. So he called a special session. Now, special sessions are sometimes special and sometimes not so. I had 4 special sessions under Governor Nixon, and many times we could argue that those were not so special sessions. But I think that for this particular call, I think the governor made a wise call because this really was unfinished business. There is an opportunity for Missouri to have a steel mill right here in the Boot Heel. I can't tell you the last time a new steel mill opened up in Missouri or the United States, much less the state of Missouri. I'm sure it has been decades and decades. So this is a large proposed operation of over 500 jobs, and I talked to someone in the industry. They told me that is a large steel mill for a very poor part of the state. So they've really, the House has stripped the bill down to its essence, and even though I say that, that doesn't mean it's any less important. It's the bill that I think that can quickly, efficiently, and appropriately get through both the House and, more importantly, the Senate, where the stumbling blocks always occur. The unfortunate thing I've seen this session is I've seen a lot of individual senators promote some of their own individual interests versus what I think is good for the state as a whole. Now, I want people to represent their districts, Paul, I absolutely do. But let's remember what's in that title of everybody who's up in Jefferson City. They are a state representative or a state senator. And you and I have previously talked, and it's like, okay, the Republicans have the governor's mansion. They have a supermajority in the House and a supermajority in the Senate. I'm thrilled that right to work was accomplished this year, something I worked on. Some tort reforms I worked on 3 years ago were passed. But now it's time for the big ideas, right? Criminal justice reform, something that you're passionate about. Education reform, something you and I are both equally passionate about. Those are the big, heavy lifts that I want to see either in another special session call, which I've heard could happen, or definitely by next year.
Well, to put my political consulting hat on, could you imagine if Governor Eric Greitens tackled criminal justice and was successful in Missouri? You know, there's this thing about states, and states have always been the incubators for good ideas. And that's why it's good for a state to try something or not try something so we can figure out, and you know, in the business of bail bonding business I'm in, you deal with liability, you deal with risk. And by spreading that liability and creating good ideas, now, just things like the failing schools or, you know, getting more family matters, you know, laws that support families. That's something Eric and I agree upon. And I'm still hopeful. I make noise sometimes because I want people to remember St. Louis exists, but in the most humblest fashion, I pray that Eric Greitens will I believe he's, you know, had an open door to the Democrats that are in this region.
Absolutely, he has.
But the Republicans here, and I think I speak for a few of them, were like, we won. We did it. I was at the party.
You're right. And now the voters, who are the constituents, everybody's saying, okay, the politics is over. Like you said, we won. Where's the policy? And I would say the Republicans took on big labor this year, and they won. We are now the 29th right to work state. I think that will definitely help with jobs. Not a silver bullet, but it will help with jobs. They took on the trial lawyers and the trial bar, and they won. They passed venue reform and expert witness reform and so many of these other things that have been in the hopper for a long time. The third special interest group, though, it won this year. The Educrats, the education establishment, Paul, now is the largest, most dominant special interest group in this state. And none of the education reform bills, none that the governor mentioned in his State of the State, none that the Speaker or the Senate leader discussed, none of them passed. And you see this on the national scene, right? Betsy DeVos only is a member of the cabinet because Vice President Pence had to cast the deciding vote. It's a difficult issue. Why? Because that special interest lobby of the education establishment has, unfortunately, over the last several decades, cared more about their contracts and their pensions than the children in the classroom. And I think education reform and criminal justice reform, Those are the big, bold ideas that will resurrect our city that you and I care so much about.
Absolutely. I'm going to close with this. When we talk about education reform and school choice, when I ran for U.S. Congress, if I don't care if you're black, white, Chinese, you could be green. If I asked a person, if your school is failing, should the state give you permission and the resources necessary to go to a school that isn't failing? 100% of the time, they tell me, absolutely, okay? But then they vote for people that don't support what they're saying.
That's
so
right.
we're going to talk about this next week. And that is Tim Jones, 97.1 FM News Talk personality. And up next, I have a special treat. St. Louis County Council person Mark Harder brings a guest. Stay tuned to see what it is. Thanks.
Is your lawn brown, run down, balding, or otherwise busted and disgusted? You need KH Services. We're at your service. Affordable lawn care and landscape maintenance. Mick Kennedy from Afton, Missouri had this to say, and I quote, "Thanks for the great looking lawn. Top quality lawn care from a professional." That's right, Kevin Hahn is a professional. And so are his services. KH Services. We're at your service. Call 314-258-5634 and ask for Kevin.
Welcome back to Show Me Politics with Paul Berry III. I'm the People's Lobbyist. And joining me in studio is Mr. Mark Harder, councilman from St. Louis County. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
How you doing, Paul? Good to see you.
Doing good, and I appreciate you for coming by. And most importantly, you brought a friend. So tell me a little bit about your friend.
Yes, thanks for having us on. This is my friend Mike LeBlanc, and he's with the American Legion of St. Louis County. And they've got some great activities for their for families this weekend for Memorial Day. And I'd like him to tell you a little bit about what they have planned.
Oh, absolutely, sir. And tell me a little bit, before we get to the actual event, tell me a little bit about your service, active duty and now being retired.
United States Navy Corpsman.
Okay.
I was happily stationed at Newport, Rhode Island in a great little hospital, wonderful Navy nurses. And I've got this notice in my inbox, personnel, that I was transferred to the United States Marine Corps. So I became what's called a FMF, or the green side. Went through field medical school with them and spent the last 2 years stationed with the Marine Corps in Southeast Asia.
Okay.
At the end, the war, Vietnam War was already demilitarized, but we were, let's call it tactical in terms of watching what was going on and doing extractions and doing the things that the government doesn't like us to talk about.
Well, I want to say that I very much honor your service. As a person that loves barbecue, I sometimes have to make sure I remember, like all Americans, that these holidays aren't just holidays so we can eat some, excuse me, pork steaks. There's a wall in this country of good and evil, and military all over the world, in fact, defend that wall. Sometimes it's an actual wall, sometimes it's barbed wire, sometimes it's just a geopolitical line. But like you said, by America having troops deployed overseas sometimes stops violence from countries, and knowing that we'd have the ability to respond in those situations. So there's an event that's going to be going on, and I found it was really intriguing. Tell us what's going on as right now.
Well, the country is celebrating, memorializing the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War. In typical government fashion, it's scheduled over a 5-year period. So this is one of the first years. The Department of Defense came up with a lapel pin that they designed. It's a very nice lapel pin for any veteran that served from 1961 through 1975. You didn't have to be in combat, you just have to serve during that time frame. So it's a Vietnam era ribbon, or Vietnam ribbon lapel pin. So we've done a few of those ceremonies, and we got the crazy idea about 30 days ago that we wanted to do one, and we wanted to read all the names of the Vietnam War.
Hold on, I don't mean to cut you off, but you're going to read all of the names.
Not me individually.
Oh, of course.
I'd like to try and see how far I got, but it's 58,300 plus names.
Wow.
There's the names on the wall are those who were killed in action or also suffered from wounds that they received in combat. It's determined by the Department of Defense as a combat casualty. we will read those names. In addition, knowing the guys and gals, 8 women are on the wall, 8 nurses. So the wall, it's not just guys. The 22 countries are represented on the wall, so it's not just Americans. There's 40 sets of brothers on the wall. There's 3 sets of fathers and sons. The youngest guy on the wall is we're approximate age of 15. There's 17 guys that were the ages of 16 and 17 that died. 154 Medal of Honors. So I mean, it just goes on and on and on. The wall itself is not just names. These are men and women who served, who had families, who didn't come back. Their families are the ones that paid the true sacrifice by not having them around. So this weekend, what we want to do is we want to name their names and do it in a fashion where it's followed by a bell ring, and we're going to call it the Whisper. We'll emulate from Sylvan Springs Park where we're doing it. It'll go across the road and through the headstones at Jefferson Barracks.
Well, I tell you what, there's one thing about Mark Harder and myself is that we stand firm with not only law enforcement but our veterans. And I want to thank you for your service, not only while you're active duty, but the things that you're doing since being active military. A lot of times people forget the true necessity and purpose of Memorial Day, and it's to memorialize people that have given the ultimate sacrifice. Now, we talk about things that are trivial like parking spots or, who's going to cut the grass next to the grass to your neighbor and whose responsibility is what. None of that matters. Because the reason why we can have these trivial arguments and these trivial fights is because there's people like you and people like your predecessors that stand by a wall. And, I also want to, reach out to my own sister who just received the VFW National Law Enforcement Award as a City of Florissant police officer. And just like yourself, she has done a lot for our country, and she does it without fanfare. She does it without the congratulations or the publicity. She's done it as active duty military, and now, she's doing it in law enforcement. And it's people like you and her that just gives me, all the motivation in the world. So Mark is a good supporter of the veterans. I'm glad that he brought you on and introduced you to me. So might I give you a handshake?
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Okay, now it's time
We
to get some
appreciate it.
barbecue, right?
It's time to get some barbecue. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And it looks like that there's going to be a great event going down if you have any time either today, tomorrow, or Monday to honor our veterans. I will let Mark go ahead and close it out and tell you where to come to for St. Louis County.
Paul, anyone in the St. Louis area can come down to Sylvan Springs Park, which is across the street from Jefferson Barracks National Cemetery, all weekend and read off the names of those that have died in the Vietnam era. Those names will be broadcast 24 hours a day until Monday, and they are looking for volunteers, Boy Scout groups, Girl Scout groups, seniors, other veterans. I even thought about a dad and son event where they could read off the names as well. Any combination, the names will be provided once they get there. They can call a number that will be on your screen to register a time if you'd like to call and read these names off at a certain time, or you can just show up. Would be a great event for your family and friends. So I hope to see all of you out there this weekend throughout Memorial Day participating in this great event.
And I cannot imagine a better event to show your children what sacrifice is. When you bring your families down and they're asking, well, what are these names? You have an opportunity to show your kids or your grandkids that we live in a time of peace, but we're very fortunate. And honestly, the only way peace has ever been driven in this society over centuries is unfortunately war. And there's several wars that happened early on that have given us the peace that we have. And I just think it's important for your kids and your families to partake. So get your barbecue and then get your tail down there. And up next is Mr. Leslie Farr, Republican strategist and Show Me Politics TV contributor. Be back in a second.
For most of us, credit can seem like a dead end, but the Franco's team with USA Mortgage can show your family the way home. The Franco's team has been helping families find the financing they need to get into homes they never dreamed they could have. Their free credit help system has helped families improve their credit scores in as little as 28 days. That's the Franco's team. Visit them online at jfrancois.usa-mortgage.com or give them a call today. 314-312-0101. The Franco's team, helping families home. Is your lawn brown, run down, balding, or otherwise busted and disgusted? You need KH Services. We're at your service. Affordable lawn care and landscape maintenance. Mick Kennedy from Afton, Missouri had this to say, and I quote, "Thanks for the great looking lawn. Top quality lawn care from a professional." That's right, Kevin Hahn is a professional. And so are his services. KH Services. We're at your service. Call 314-258-5634 and ask for Kevin. What now? Your healthcare needs may be a detour, but when you choose Thrive, it won't be a dead end. Our team of medical staff are on hand to walk with you, step by step. Thrive St. Louis, Express Women's Healthcare, low-cost and no-cost medical services, offering pregnancy testing, pregnancy options, ultrasound services, and life skills classes. Walk-ins welcome. Thrive St. Louis, Express Women's Healthcare. Visit thrivestlouis.org or call our 24-hour helpline now, 314-773-4626.
Welcome back to Show Me Politics with Paul Berry III. I'm the People's Lobbyist. And joining me is Mr. Leslie Farr, Republican strategist and all-around guru in St. Louis politics. Hey, thanks for coming by the studio.
No problem at all.
Well, one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on is that we have this special session going on in Jefferson City. Now, I don't think it's a secret at this point of the purpose of the session, which is to create jobs, which I always think is a good thing. I say often, I'm going to say it at the end of this show, that crime is birthed basically by poverty and issues regarding the economy. You can always tell that when the economy is down, crime goes up. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is if you had the governor's ear and he was going to create a special session for issues in St. Louis, what do you think the governor should tackle?
I think first and foremost, law enforcement support. Our men and women in blue and brown and black or whatever color their municipality has are completely under the gun right now. That and some service programs, as many youth service programs as you could fund healthily within the budget. I don't know that there's room for much, but I think those two hand in hand go to limit what you're talking about, that crime, especially amongst youth, because a lot of their crime is really petty, just kind of, I really need something to do. It's begging for something to do. And our men and women in law enforcement definitely need our help in getting some of the things they need, some of the tools they need.
Well, absolutely. And I think that there are definitely some good starts there. The argument that I always hear when people combat back and forth on this, when I believe that Jefferson City should take a lead on this issue, there's two things they tell me. One, that a lot of this is a local problem. And I think that the local governments do have issues that are well publicized. But a lot of these things like, what are we doing with our state criminal laws? How are we punishing people when we send them to prison? I've sat in court as a bail bondsman and watched people accused of child molestation and rape take plea bargains that don't have jail time. And most of that is because they have a very good legal defense. And I believe in the system of adversarial, having a strong prosecutor and having a strong defense gives us the best opportunity to figure out what the truth is before a jury of someone's peers. But where the flat out issue comes for me is that, great representation all the way up until sentencing, I get it. When a person's being sentenced, who your lawyer is or how good your attorneys are should have nothing to do with the sentence. So you have a skewed system in our prisons where you have scores of nonviolent offenders. St. Louis County Jail, biggest county in the entire state, between 25 and 30% at any given time of the people that are in their jail are in there for child support. I think the community wants people to be out of jail if it's something nonviolent, or give them another way to pay it back first, versus us letting heroin dealers go because they got the money.
Right. Well, and I'll qualify this. I am a former board member of the Father Support Center. I support men paying child support to take care of their children. What I don't support is some of the stuff that leads to a father not paying support, right? So you're going to take $200 out of my check every month, rightfully so. However, I don't get to see my kids, and there's nothing I can do about it. That leads to a guy saying, you know what, screw it, man. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to play this game. So let's work on that. Also, we need to look at alternatives to, and I think the city of St. Louis is working on some things, and I know that Father Support Center is working with St. Louis County on some things to lessen the penalty for non-payment of support. And trying to really work that out. I know under Governor Blunt, there was actually an amnesty period that was put forth. Maybe we revisit that. But yeah, you're right. There are a lot of nonviolent offenders who are there simply because they can't afford a great attorney. But one of it is we need to look at how we're charging criminals. I think we need to, in Missouri, we need to move away from the grand jury system and move more towards what West Virginia has, which is a magistrate system, which is a judge, a lawyer, a legally trained person who then looks at charges that are put forth by a prosecutor, and that person determines whether or not the statute is met in that instance to go ahead with a true bill, as opposed to what we have now, which is a constitutional system, but it kind of fails. I'm not a construction worker, right? I can maybe build my daughter's doll house, and I did a really bad job at that at Christmas. However, you put me on a construction site, I don't know anything about it. I don't know the verbiage, the schematics, anything about it. And you say, okay, work with us on building a house. I know nothing about it.
Well, and I think that, again, Eric Greitens, our governor, sells himself as the non-politician. And that excites me in the fact because what we have is an issue of that's just the way it is. The year before did it, the generation before did it with a lot of these systems. We've come a long time since the 1800s. And some of the criminal systems that we utilize were actually established them. Some of them should be in place, but I think that we need to have a smarter way of doing things. I want to see more video court. I want to see things that push people through the system. And I also want to see an assessment of people that have been sitting in jail on a weekly basis. Because if I'm the police chief and I know I'm going to do a raid, this is how they do it in the rest of the places. They contact the jail and they said, okay, who here that's not a danger, because we're going to be bringing in some bad dudes and they might need to sit in jail for a little bit. So it's just about restructuring, but more importantly, we have to have the communication with Jeff City to get anything resolved. And that is Mr. Leslie Farr, Republican strategist and contributor to Show Me Politics TV. Up next is My Political Matrix, where we dive into what should really be happening during this special session down in Jeff City. Should it only be about a steel mill? I don't think so. Be back in a second.
For most of us, credit can seem like a dead end, but the Fransos team with USA Mortgage can show your family the way home. The Fransos team has been helping families find the financing they need to get into homes they never dreamed they could have. Their free credit help system has helped families improve their credit scores in as little as 28 days. That's the Fransos team. Visit them online at jfransos.usa-mortgage.com or give them a call today. 314-312-0101. The Fransos team, helping families home. Is your lawn brown, run down, balding, or otherwise busted and disgusted? You need KH Services. We're at your service. Affordable lawn care and landscape maintenance. Mick Kennedy from Afton, Missouri had this to say, and I quote, "Thanks for the great looking lawn. Top quality lawn care from a professional." That's right, Kevin Hahn is a professional. And so are his services. KH Services. We're at your service. Call 314-258-5634 and ask for Kevin. What now? Your healthcare needs may be a detour, but when you choose Thrive, it won't be a dead end. Our team of medical staff are on hand to walk with you, step by step. Thrive St. Louis, Express Women's Healthcare, low-cost and no-cost medical services, offering pregnancy testing, pregnancy options, ultrasound services, and life skills classes. Walk-ins welcome. Thrive St. Louis, Express Women's Healthcare. Visit thrivestlouis.org or call our 24-hour helpline now, 314-773-4626.
Welcome back to Show Me Politics with Paul Berry III. I am the People's Lobbyist. And it is now time for my political matrix. we want to dive into the special session going on in Jefferson City. And first, I absolutely support Governor Grine's job creation mandate. Missourians need jobs. I also believe that gainful employment is the solution to St. Louis's crime epidemic. Poverty and a lack of opportunity is the father of all crime. Unfortunately, regardless of which party holds the Missouri General Assembly or the governor's mansion, Jefferson City has been paralyzed by apathy towards creating legislative solutions to create substantial change in the St. Louis region. Violence is besieging the city. Violence is besieging the city. You have weekends where people get shot by the dozens. You have more heroin overdoses here than probably the whole state of Missouri. It is no secret that the city of St. Louis carries a tremendous amount of responsibility regarding what's going on with the 300,000 residents in the city. The problem is, you don't fix government problems by cooking more government pork. You fix the problem by cutting the fat before you fire up the grill. There is a reason people like me refuse to support government public policy that is destroying the area I love to spend my time in. The Missouri governor should utilize the people that support the same views that he supports to fix the issues in St. Louis. Ignoring us for the same politicians that have failed us time and time again seems like political behavior, not outsider behavior. As we all enjoy Memorial Day, the situation in the St. Louis region reminds me of one of my favorite war movies, When We Were Soldiers. Great movie. When American soldiers were overrun by enemy forces, the ground commander had the ability to request air support from every available warplane to thwart the enemy's assault. In the movie, the special code was Broken Arrow. Governor Grimes, after fully assessing the situation in the St. Louis region, I am calling Broken Arrow. Please send all available resources and legislative creativity the state of Missouri can bear on the issues of failing government in the city of St. Louis. I don't want to make noise. I want non-politician change. In St. Louis, we can show you what the rank and file cops need. We can show you what the people need. It won't cost a lot of money or handouts. We are your St. Louis Republicans. If Eric Grimes does not take this on over the next 8 years, who else will? Jay Nixon ignored it for 8 years as governor. Please, sir, send reinforcements. I am Paul Berry III. This is my Political Matrix. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Show Me Politics with Paul Berry III. You have a great work week. God bless and good evening. Get some good barbecue.